Alcorn State, the Braves inside the red zone. More to come. Final quarter. When you come back.
McNair radio show here on this Monday night. Glad you can join us. Gloomy, dreary Monday afternoon here on the beautiful campus of Alcorn State University as the Braves get set to take on Southern University. The Braves coming off a bye week. We'll have another one coming up. And it's the time of the year in which teams love the bye week, love the opportunity, a little downtime, but now it's back to work. Braves rested and ready to go. We're looking at some other SWAC games, big games, Southern and Texas Southern over the weekend. Jackson State with a come-from-behind win in overtime over Mississippi Valley. Prairie View won on their homecoming. So you expect some closer, more competitive games. The stakes are higher this time of year. Teams are trying to get healthier. Everybody's banged up, and a lot in the pot, a lot to unpack as you unpack the suitcase at this time of year. So we're going to talk about it. I'm Charles Edmond, our producer, Jamario Brooks, over in Studio B on the buttons. Glad you can join us here on 91.7 WPRL, the flagship station of the Braves Sports Network, as well as WMIS, WTYJ, 1240 AM, 97.7 AM and FM, Fayette Natchez. They've been broadcasting in the Southwest Mississippi area for over 100 years in the Open Mic Broadcast Network, obnradio.com. Dr. Michael Prince handling that, as well as 87.9 FM down at Prairie View, Texas, where the Panthers won on their homecoming. Glad you can join us one and all. Got texts, got tweets. We'll get to all of that coming up. Braves head football coach Fred McNair, fresh off the bye week, ready for the Jaguars. Coach McNair, how you doing, man?
We're getting there, Charles. Just give the guys some rest and try to get the guys back healthy. That was kind of banged up a little bit. So always good to have a bye week this time of the year. Normally about halfway through you love to have a bye week, and what other better than to have it before you play them Jaguars and Southern. So, last year we didn't have a bye week till the 10th game of the season. So, we're very fortunate this year to get one in before the end, and just interesting how these guys respond. We practiced the first part of the week last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and gave the guys Friday and Saturday off. We got a little treatment for both those days that we was off. Came back Sunday afternoon and met with the guys, and just to give them a chance to see them come back, make sure everybody made it back here on time, and those guys was here and ready. Got a chance to go out this morning, Charles, and before the rain hit, so we got a good couple hours in to practice this morning, so that was good for us. Like I said, it's always good to have a bye this time of the year, especially before a big game like this one against them Jaguars.
And you look at the weather today, it could be like this on Saturday. There's a 50% chance of rain in the forecast. Matter of fact, some of the high school games already moved back to Thursday in anticipation of rain coming in on Friday, and we don't know what that's going to look like. We've had that a couple of weeks ago. So we might have these type of conditions, going to cool off a little bit, warm up a little bit. So what you're seeing this morning, or what you saw this morning, you could be looking at on Saturday. Coach, I want to ask you about these bye weeks, and when you practice during the bye weeks, you know the intensity of a week practice, the week of the game, because you know you have a game coming up. But when you don't have a game, you want to keep the intensity up. How is the motor? How should the motor be during the bye week? Should you go full tempo knowing you don't have a game? You want to keep the tempo going, or is it maybe okay to back off just a little bit knowing you don't have a game till the following week?
I treat it just like a game week, Charles. I go in and anticipate the excitement and intensity of the players the same as a game week. So we don't take nothing from it. We practice Monday, did our special teams Monday, and come back Tuesday. We locked and loaded full gear. And Wednesday was the same way. And Thursday got a little one-on-one, good in, and let some of those guys that don't normally get a chance to play as much as freshmen get a chance to see some live action. And it was good. It was good. Just to see where we at with those young guys coming along the way, and get a chance to see them tackle and run and block and all those things, Charles. So it was good. The bye week was good. I don't really pull back off of a bye week. Just those 2 days that we normally walk through on Friday, and Saturday we have a game. So Friday we kind of gave the guys off Friday, and they came in and got a lift in Friday morning. And Saturday they had the day off, and Sunday back at school, get ready for this week. So people handle it different ways, but that's just the only way I know to prepare for a bye week is continue to practice where you play a game on Saturday.
So roughly 48 hours, maybe not even that long. If you just count the hours of downtime, getting ready just during that whole bye weekend.
Yeah, just those 2 days. Friday, you can still get treatment. Those guys are banged up, and I think just Lisa doing a great job with those guys again. Charles getting them back to the field of play. And on Saturday, you have the whole Saturday off, except for those guys who really need treatment. You come in and get treatment, and Sunday the same way. So you don't do anything Sunday anyway after a game. So we came in and had a team meeting Sunday afternoon and getting these guys ready for this morning practice.
So you were talking about where you're at with your team. Just give us a sense of where you are at with this team at this point. 3-0 in the division. We know what happened early on. Noah Johnson goes down. Next man up, Felix Harper steps in. We've had some injuries. We've had some aches and pains here or there. Big game of the week coming up. Just where are you with your team right now, and how comfortable are you at this point?
It's part of football, Charles, and you don't never get comfortable in these situations, because that's the worst thing that could happen. You get comfortable and not being complacent, I guess is the word, Charles, and not understanding that you have a game, a big game, and these young men know where we need to be, and I think we still have a lot of work to do. Still work in progress, halfway through the season, and there's still some mistakes being made. So we just have to make sure that we teaching these young men, getting those mistakes ironed out, and getting where we need to be for the second season. Regular Charges is coming up on the second half of the season, and it's going to be a bang. We got Southern coming up, and that's our next big game. So be a very good challenge for us. We're a very competitive ball game. So we just try to get these guys ready to play.
So we will break it down: offense, defense, special teams. The Braves defense coming in 9 sacks, number 1 points per game. We'll talk all about that. We'll talk about the offense. We'll talk about special teams. We'll take your questions, your calls. Let's talk a little Braves football. What do you think about the first half of the season? Give us your thoughts. And, of course, Steve McNair, the late Steve McNair, his jersey, number 9, will be retired. No one will ever wear another number 9 in the purple and gold here at Alcorn. Just give us your thoughts on what you remember from Steve McNair. I've got a ton of them, a bunch of them on and off the field. Just terrific memories, from the media presence just to the action on the field, breaking the record against Southern University. Of course, there'll be a big gala at the BB Club in Vicksburg on a Thursday evening, so that'll be a huge thing. And, of course, the retirement on Saturday, so a lot to unpack there. So we'll take a break. We'll get into the nuts and bolts of this Braves football team, where we are at this point. Give us a call, 601-877-6595. You can text a question, 601-348-7254. You can tweet a question to All Man Radio. I'm on Twitter. You can tweet a question anytime, 24/7, 365. We'll take a break. We'll be right back after this here on the Fred McNair Radio Show. All right, Coach, let's look at the offense. Of course, we all know the story early on. It was Noah Johnson to start the season. We know Noah Johnson went down the first half against McNeese, and Felix Harper has stepped in, and it's been a seamless transition. Team's averaging 33.7 yards per game in conference. That's number 3, 32 touchdowns, averaging 173 yards rushing per game. That's number 4 in the league, only behind Southern, a team that's running the football with success these days, Prairie View and Grambling, and 228 yards per game throwing the football. Were you ever concerned about, and you can ask this every week on the SWAC football teleconference, obviously the status of Noah Johnson, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but this transition from Felix Harper, Noah Johnson to Felix Harper, were you concerned about that, or has it just been par for the course? It's the way it's been here the last several years, and you just have to step up and the next guy taking those snaps?
Hopefully, Charles, in every position on the football field that you would think you'll have at least 2 deep in that area, of some guy that can come in and play. And just fortunate enough that Felix was ready to play. he did everything right during the course of practice, made the right throws and doing all the right things that Coach Pat asked him to do. Those are the type of guys that's ready to play before they're ready to play, if that makes sense. Him just being in the back wing behind Noah in the shadow. So just waiting for opportunity. And the thing is about football is always the next guy up. Due to injuries or due to struggles, you always got to be ready to play. And that's the thing that in the quarterback system that we have had here at Alcorn in the past. When all these guys going down, and this will happen to be their senior year. With John Gibbs, Lenore Footman, Noah Johnson. Now you got Felix Harper. So that's a trend. So those guys are ready to play. And, just sitting in the wing and just waiting your opportunity, I think, is the biggest thing that pushes those guys, to make those guys hungry to play and to be successful the way they've been is just being in that backup role and ready to play when that time comes. So, hats off to to Pat White and the quarterback coach. They're doing a great job with him. Coach Radden has put them in a great position to make plays and great play caller. So those are the things that, as a coaching staff, that you try to teach every day for somebody else to be able to step up in any position.
After the McNeese game, of course, Noah went down in that game, and just sitting around talking to some Braves fans. And after the game, obviously a tough loss to McNeese. I was saying to myself, Felix Harper's going to be the guy, and I have a feeling that he's going to step up. And some fans were, I guess, concerned or worried because Felix had not had a lot of reps. And I guess if you hadn't, then you obviously would think that. But you've obviously and really have had the confidence. If you go back to the SWAC championship game, Noah went down for a play when his helmet popped off. You got to come off for a play, a 3rd and 4, maybe one of the bigger plays in the game. In that game, if you don't, not really to talk about that game, but that 3rd and 4, Felix Harper picked up the first down. And there were times in which, in the few plays he did get into the ball game, was successful. So you really never had any doubts that Felix Harper, when his time came, whenever that would be, that he would be ready to go.
I've coached quarterbacks a long time, Charles, and just to see how quarterbacks come up. I had a guy at Millsap, Warren Joseph, the late Warren Joseph. He was the same way. His mom and his auntie was just eager for him to play, I'm just telling him, just let me take my time with him. I don't want to put him in there too fast. Felix the same way. Confidence in those guys. I have confidence in all these guys, Charles. It's just a matter of them getting out there doing it. I'm just short of not having confidence in those guys because I believe in what those guys can do with their talent. That's all the young men that play. Not only that quarterback position, take a look on the other side of the ball, on the defense side of the ball. Those guys can play. And so I got confidence now. No matter who we put out there, I think that those guys are ready to play because of the way these coaches teach.
Were there a lot of adjustments in terms of play calling, strategy, in terms of changing the scheme with a different quarterback, or if the system stays the same, it's just plug and play?
Charlie, we don't change too much. I think Felix is hitting in stride, and everybody think you're going to hand the ball off, and when you put a new quarterback in just for a helmet popping off, but no, we don't change anything. It's a game plan. So we go according to the game plan and execute it to the best of our ability. Coach Radden called. They don't have to change anything when he call play.
Of course, Felix Harper, since he has been in the lineup, 1,279 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Of course, it would not be possible without the offensive line, pass protection. Talk a little bit about that the first half of this season. We've talked about Mustafa Ibrahim, our center, and we've had some moving pieces there. Just talk about where you are with your offensive line.
Well, they're doing an exceptional job right now, Charles, and that's the thing that Coach Radden, he's the offensive line coach, and he teaches those guys the same way. Some guys struggle, and it's, when it's time for him to make a move, he'll put somebody else in, and don't hardly miss a beat, Charles. So those are the things that we try to do as coach, to develop that depth during the course of the week, so we'll know who's ready to play, and when it's time for them to play. So, I think the first part of the season, Mustafa kind of struggled a little bit, and Coach Radden didn't hesitate to go with Joel Milburn. So those things happen. Everybody's not going to have a sunny day every day. It's going to be some struggles, and can we make changes? Is anything going to change if we put somebody else in that position? But it's not too much of a knock, Charles. So we continue to press on and keep moving.
We talked about injuries, and we've had a bunch of them throughout the first half of the season. Bubba went down. What's his status with a week off?
Well, now Bubba's out for the rest of the year, Charles. He got an ACL, and he won't be playing no more. So this was I think the Alabama State game was Bubba's last collegiate football game. So unfortunately, that happened to him his senior year. But Bubba was a great offensive lineman for us. He came back this year to play his last year of eligibility, and those unfortunate things happened. So we just unfortunately have to lose Bubba to that injury. But that's the status of him. Getting ready to have surgery here just as soon as they get the swelling down. So we're gonna miss old Bubba in that left guard position. So just unfortunate injury that happened to him during the course of that game.
As we move on to the running attack, Coach, of course, Nico Duffy has been the talk. And speaking of injuries, again, Nico did not play in the last game. What's his status coming up for this week?
Just precautionary reason, just to monitor him a little bit. But he should be ready on Saturday, Charles. So he's back at work and doing the things he should do. All
right, so you look at the running game, we're averaging 4.4 yards per carry. We talked about Duffy. You talk about Waller. Just talk about where you are at this point, midway through the season, with the running game. What could be better? You happy with where that is?
We're still on course, Charles. I mean, sometimes it's what the defense gives us. We have to take it. So sometimes you can run the ball, and sometimes they take it a lot away from you. Sometimes you can pass it. Sometimes they take it away from you. So you have to dig down and continue to grab what's work for you. So I think Coach Ratner's doing a great job of putting everything together, kind of balancing it out with the pass and run and those things they need to do. It just depends on what the defense gives us. If they decide to rush us and not let us run, I mean, they'll throw the ball. So it's one of those things, Charles. We make adjustments, and that's one thing I think this coaching staff on both sides of the ball is doing a really good job at, is making adjustment during the course of the game and halftime.
Of course, the running game in Southern University, like peanut butter and jelly, you just go back to Arnold Walker and the overtime touchdown he had against Southern University, Anthony A-Train Williams, DeLance Turner, P.J. Simmons. We had 400 yards rushing against Southern in one game. I know my buddy Carlos Brown, who hosts a showdown in Baton Rouge, hates to hear that number because we really had our way. But just, you talk about this Southern defense, and we'll talk more about it later on, but this Jaguar defense is a little bit stingy.
They are, Charles. They bottled up Tucker from Prairie View for like 53 yards total. So, they've gotten beef up front and gotten better up front too, Charles, and what they're doing. So I think Coach Odom is doing a good job with those guys down there and having them ready to play, for one. So those guys going to come ready to play. I mean, as always, every week, we got to lace our cleats up and play our A-game, Charles. So we're looking forward to a good event, a good venue here on campus.
You talk about having a good offensive attack. Stretching the field is obviously important, and we've been able to do that with some terrific wide receiver play, led by Pringle with 7 touchdowns. If you turn the clock back 4 months, July, August, fall camp, did you expect Pringle to have the season that he's having with 7 touchdowns so far?
Well, just coming the year before, Charles, and some of the things that I've seen him do during the course of last year, up until now. And I think he came into camp, with a mindset that he wanted to be the guy, and proving the fact, So right now he's doing a real good job of working in the course of practice and doing everything the right way. Coach Phillip is teaching him. So when you're doing those things right, Charles, and get in the game, it's so much easier when you get in the game and start competing, because now you're really seeing it live bullets, and people make mistakes too. So and during the course of that, it's a split-second decision that you have to make to do something or make a tackle or defend a pass. And I think that Pringle is doing an awesome job of getting open and doing the things he's supposed to do.
Chris Blair with 5 touchdowns. We have 7 different wide receivers and or tight ends that's caught at least 1 touchdown. Rodarius Anderson, talk a little bit about getting him a little bit more active. You expect that in the second half?
Well, Ray come back off the injury last year, Charles. The first drive of the Celebration Bowl, he got injured, and didn't come back. So kind of missed him the first part of that season, and then it's just been an injury prone with him. But now he's back, and so he's getting back in the swing of things, Charles. So he'll be ready to play this week as well. So just getting him some touches was really big against Prairie View as well, too, Charles. So it was good.
You know, I think the assumption also with playmakers is that when they're down for however many weeks, whether it's 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is, and I guess I'm talking more in the NFL, when guys come back, there's this expectation that they pick up right up where they left off. But in football, that's not always the case. Other guys are doing things, and you have to kind of play yourself back into it, don't you?
Yeah, most of the time, Charles. You know, you have injuries and you have guys that don't do so well sometimes, and then they fall back into the depth chart and not have to work themselves back into it. So, you know, that situation occurs more than none, Charles. So it's a football thing that where people expect to come back and get right back into what they're doing, but it's not that easy. You sometimes have to work your way back into it a lot of times, Charles. So with the injuries and just the lack of the energy sometimes, it pays out.
So the one area, obviously, penalties. You know, we talked about penalties, you know, the pre-snap penalties and all that. Just got to continue to work on those things, obviously.
Almost definitely. We stress that every day. Not a day go by, it's knock on wood, that you just got to stay out of them this coming week and better yet on down the rest of the season with the penalties. And that's one thing that we'll drive these guys to this whole week. You know, we'll pound them, just stress the unsportsmanlike stuff, the dead ball penalties, stuff like that. We can't really have that charge. So not against this game, this magnitude here. It's got a lot of implications on the line, so we have to play almost a perfect ball game.
Both teams 3-0 in the division. Game of the week coming up. And that, speaking of the offense, that leads into our first tweet on this Monday night from T.J. Mayfield. Is there any concern with us having negative plays while in the hurry-up?
No, and that's something that it kind of work both ways. Sometimes you catch them, and sometimes they just fall right into it. So when we get a chance to do tempo, we'll do it. We don't too much worry about it, but it could happen either way. You know, you make something big out of it, it's good, and sometimes they're not ready. When you snap the ball, they just fall right into what you're gonna run. So, but you know, just staying out of those situations like that, sometimes it helps now not to have negative plays and just playing behind the chain.
All right, we'll take a timeout here. We'll look at the defense coming up 27 minutes after. Back after this 1 minute timeout here on the Fred McNair Radio Show, etc.
Well, you get a lot of that in during the course of that week, that bye week. You get a chance to watch a little film on them, and also, you know, get the guys that's kind of wounded healed up to charge. So it helps to have that bye week going into a big game like this to kind of get everybody back that you need to play this game. So I think that we've done a great job of getting those guys rested up and getting those injured guys where they can play now.
All right, it's 29 minutes after. We're going to look at the defense. We appreciate the text and tweets that have come in. Black from Macon, Georgia, chiming in. Bottom of the hour, we have Marquise calling in. We'll get to him after this 10-second station identification here on the Brave Sports Network.
You are tuned in to WPRL 91.7 FM, broadcasting from the campus of Alcorn State University.
All right, halfway through the Fred McNair Radio Show. We'll get to the defense in a moment, but Marquise joining us here on this Monday night. Good evening, Marquise. How are you?
How you doing, y'all?
Doing pretty good.
How you doing, Coach?
I'm good, Marquise, man. How you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, man. How y'all bye week?
It was good, man. Got a chance to work the guys out a little bit and give them a little rest on the weekend, man. So it was good for them. I think they enjoyed it. Got a chance to see them this morning and Sunday evening, and they was bright-eyed and fishy-tailed, man. So it looked good. I was glad to see them back.
Yeah, and I hope y'all beat Southern, because you know Southern coming down there, they're going to bring a lot of, I know they're going to see a lot of all them canteens, all that stuff.
Yeah, it'll be a great venue for us, Marquise, and be a great showing. And I hope the guys be ready to play, and we'll get them ready to play.
Yeah, because I know y'all gonna win the game, but I hope y'all beat them.
All right then, Marquise. I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you calling in, Marquise, here on this Monday night. Don't forget, get your game day tickets. Tickets in advance, children's ages 6 through 12 are $10. On game day, $10. General admission advance is $20. On game day, it's $25. Reserve seating, $30 in advance, $35 the day of the game. And purple seats, $50 in advance and $55 on game day. And you want to get there early. Should be a terrific atmosphere, maybe homecoming 2.0. Maybe we can call it that. as the Jaguar Nation, they're going to come rolling in here. Coach, rain or shine, they're used to bringing parkas. They're used to bringing their rain gear. Of course, a lot of rain in Baton Rouge, and the Jaguars come in here. The Braves, of course, have had great success against Southern University, and we've been kind of in their way. We've been a thorn in their side, and it should be another great game coming up. Southern playing a couple of quarterbacks these days. Skelton, he went ill in the Texas Southern game, has struggled from time to time. So we'll get a good look at the Jaguars. We're here from Dawson Odoms. Coming up, let's go to Kermit. He joins us. We'll get to the defense in a minute, but Kermit joins us here on this Monday night. Good evening, Kermit. How are you?
Hey, good evening, Coach. How you doing?
I'm doing good, sir.
All right, Coach, I got to lighten things up a little bit. This was a week off. I was looking back on the roster that you played on. Coach, you didn't have but 50 players on the roster. And to not embarrass you on the telephone, Coach, I would say you got linebackers that was faster than anybody we had on the team back at that time, Coach. I thought that was just funny to look at on there. But, Coach, I had one of my friends, he went to Southern. He called me today. He said, you know what, Kermit? He says, I think for the first time in the 10th game we were playing you guys, we are finally bringing a team to Lawman that we feel that matches up with you real good on there. So, Coach, having won 8 of the last 9 meetings, how do we keep our players, Coach, from getting complacent in a game like this?
Well, the biggest thing up through the week and just coach them up during the week, and especially we had that bye week coming leading into this week, Kermit. Just talking to them and just keeping them humble and let them know it can happen anytime. So, we got to be ready to play. So these guys are ready. I talked to a couple of players this morning, and they talked about how focused they were. And that's one of the things that we always stress a lot. Being focused and playing with attitude. And that's one thing that these guys, I think, they locked in. And just looking at them this morning and the way they was out this morning, I think they pretty much locked in to where we ain't got to say too much this week, Kermit. They know the magnitude of this ball game. They know what the outcome could be, and everything. So they looking forward to this one, Kermit. So.
All right, Coach. Well, I'll be there Saturday acting like a crazy Brave fan.
All right, appreciate you, Kermit.
All right, Kermit, we appreciate it. All right, Kermit calling in from Dallas. We appreciate Marquise and Kermit calling in 34 minutes after 6 o'clock. Looking at our midterm report card, we talked about the offense. Let's look at the defense, Coach. We talked about it at the top. 9 sacks, 10 interceptions. Defensively as a team, number 1 in points per game, number 2 against the run, number 4 against the pass, 9 sacks on the season. So talk about where you are with your defense. I'm sure it's been some moving pieces, some on the back end, up front. Just talk about how your defense has looked in your mind so far.
I think that Coach Thornton and their staff is doing a tremendous job with the depth they have of getting those guys to play as hard as they playing. So I'm pretty at ease with what they're doing right now, Charles. I think that they're doing a lot, and Coach Thornton, he'll tell you, the defense is very, very intense. They play hard. They play with a lot of effort. And so pretty much I'm pretty pleased with what they're doing. We went back to the drawing board on the open week, the bye week, back to some basic stuff. I think that will help those guys out too, some of the stuff that we saw during the course of weeks prior that they wasn't doing so well. So we had to make sure that we get back to that and do the things that's going to win this ball game for us. So I think that what they're doing is great. So Coach Thornton is really keeping those guys with a high motor on that side of the ball.
We won an award for the number of sacks last year. Got a big award for that, but just 9 sacks going into this game. Is that kind of surprising? I know you would like to have more. Is it just not getting to the quarterback? Other teams kind of scheming up offensively.
We kind of missed a bunch of them, Charles, and Coach Thornton will be the first to tell you. We probably missed about half, a little bit over more than the 9 sacks. If you look at it, Charles, just go back and watch it. We missed a ton. But just those guys just wrapping up and making a tackle based on what it is. So hopefully, we'll have that fixed for this week.
And of course, you might have a very mobile quarterback in Skelton who really impressed the heck out of everyone, especially in the SWAC championship game last year. He was slated to be the guy this year, and he's been kind of yanked in and out of the lineup. and didn't play that much against Texas Southern, so we could be looking at two quarterbacks. Coach Odom said this week Skelton will get some reps, but there's a possibility he may not start. In that case, Coach, I know you look at the film, you've seen two quarterbacks the last few weeks. I'm sure the obvious question is, who do you prepare for? But I'm sure the obvious answer is you prepare for it all.
Yeah, we have to prepare for it all, Charles. I'm quite sure that Skelton will get the nod until he struggles a little bit. But McDaniels, he's a true passer. He can sling it around, Charles. So on the other hand, Skelton, he run the ball well, run the offense well. But just being able to slow those guys down, Charles, I think that what Coach Thorne and his staff are doing on that side of the ball will be prepared for him. So just have to get ready for two guys.
And, of course, individually, Solomon Muhammad leading the team in tackles with 49, and he really has made his presence felt, Coach, the last couple of weeks. And Juan Taylor with 45, the top two guys. Is there one guy on defense, as you look at the midway point of the season, that you're like, I wonder, and then you look at where he is now, and you're like, wow, this guy's really stepped up?
Well, coming in, Juan Taylor was one of the guys that we saw in the spring that really stuck out for us, Charles, at the nickel spot and the safety as well. So, just doing the things he do, and he's a thumper, got some guys back there like to light you up, Charles. I think they like to cover second and hit you first. So those kind of things that's exciting. It's exciting to a coach, but basically when we're doing all the same way and doing all the stuff right, is what really get everybody excited over on that defense.
All right, let's go back to the phone lines. A busy phone line here on this Monday night, 38 minutes after 6 o'clock. Virgil is calling from Atlanta. Good evening, Virgil. How are you?
All right, good evening, Chuck. How you doing? And Coach, good evening to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
All right. Hey, Coach, I do have a question for you. Based on our defensive scheme on Southern, what are we going to have to do to shut Skelton down? I mean, we need to shut him down all night because he's fast. And I noticed that on our defensive ends, we're getting to it, but we're not getting the sacks. I've noticed that in the last couple of games that we had. And what are we going to do to penetrate this offense and get him down? I mean, because we have to blitz him all night. We need to all gas, no brakes. That's what they tell me, folks. What is our scheme for that? What is our scheme? What are we going to do to kind of execute that?
The best way to say about that is tackle him. That's about the only way we can get him. So we just got to make sure we wrap him up and get him down to the ground. And, schematic-wise, I can't talk about that, but we got to tackle him.
Right. And have we been working on our tackling drills a little bit more on this bye week?
Oh, yeah, we did that. We did that a lot.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Chuck.
All right, Virgil, we appreciate you calling in here on this Fred McNair radio show. Monday night, 5 days away from the big Southern game. So we talked about offense, defense, special teams. Coach Corey McCullough averaging 41.9 yards per punt. Talk about his punting duties early on. We kind of talked about would he do all the kicking duties at this point. We have another kicker in the fold, maybe give him a little break, but talk about how he's handled that, averaging 41, almost 42 yards per punt.
Corey doing an outstanding job, and I think that what we allow him to do is ball placement this year, Charles. He's doing a great job of putting it where we need to put it on punts and kickoffs. So I think that the special teams have really stepped up a little bit and start making the plays that they have to make to start back in the backup. Coach Powell always want to tackle the ball inside the 20. And the only way you do that is beat them with speed. So running down on kickoff, running down on punts, and just containing those guys and getting them down to the ground is the biggest issue. So we have to do that and do it well this ball game because Southern's a good special team. They do a lot of good stuff on special teams. So we have to be mindful of that as coaches and make sure that we're putting our guys in the best situations possible to make those plays.
What's the strategy on kickoffs? Of course, we know the rules. You kick it out of bounds, you get it at the 35, you kick it out the back of the end zone, you get it at the 25. Talk a little about the strategy there. I guess with your defense, if they're playing well, does it matter where they start in terms of a starting position?
I mean, you want to kick it out the back of the end zone, if you're allowed to. to put it back in the back of the end zone. I think Corey can do that with no doubt. But just some situation where he misses some and bad ball placement is a thing that we have to make sure that we get right. But he's doing a great job right now with ball placement and the sky kick or whatever we want him to do. So he's doing an excellent job at it. I think he's handling the situation very well.
And of course, we're averaging 8 yards per punt return on 11 returns and 15.2 yards and 17 kickoff returns. And on the coverage, Coach, Southern University, I was looking at the game online the other day, Southern Prairie View. Southern got the football, I think, a 37-yard kickoff return to kind of start them off against Prairie View. And I'm sure and every time Alcorn and Southern plays, there's going to be a special teams play made or not made. And we have to do a good job in punt and kickoff coverage.
Oh, exactly. We have to be able to cover. And that's one thing that I was talking about then, just beating with speed and getting down and cover the kick. So stay in our lanes and make sure we're doing a great job of containing them. And that's the best you can get when you start doing stuff like that. And you know you're right when you're doing it like that. So hopefully we'll be consistent in doing that for this ball game.
Back to the phone lines we go. I want to apologize to Cedric Foster. He chimed in real late last week and didn't have time to get him on. So Cedric, the floor is yours. Good evening, sir. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing good, man.
All right. I just have two questions, and you talked about it. Boy, I'm noticing that look like we need to get somebody, on those kickoffs and stuff that can put them in the end zone. Look like that is a problem with a lot of HBCUs. I mean, look like when that ball is kicked off, most people receive it right at the 15-yard line, and automatically they may get it to the 30 because I know how important, you're right, I know how important special teams are. But, boy, if we can get somebody, maybe we have to go to the Russia or somebody that can put that ball in the end zone so it won't be a run back or anything. Because I noticed a couple of times, a couple of games I attended, and I was at homecoming and everything. It's just, they always get it right at about the 15, 20-yard line. And if you put it in the end zone, it starts out on the 25, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Coach, one thing I want to ask you about this, here this summer I was in Atlanta and I went to the College Football Hall of Fame, and your brother, Steve, he's on the ballot. Is it, have you heard anything? Is he going to, do you think he's going to be inducted? Because let's face it, he is a first ballot inductee. Do you think that's going to happen, or what? Do you have any feel anything?
I wouldn't. I totally agree with you, Foster, and that's one of the things that we have to look at ourselves too, of how we can get that done from a university standpoint. If it's something we can do to get those balances to where he can get in, I think he's well deserving of it. He's done a lot of things for this SWAC conference, and not only for Alcorn, but for the SWAC itself, the things that he's done over the past, so, it's just the ideal of those writers, or I guess who the voters are, putting people into this thing, man. So hopefully, the things that have been occurring now, with retirement of the jerseys up in Nashville, and we're having a big event here on Saturday, we kind of push that along the same way.
Okay. All right, then. Coach, I can't make that one. I can't make that one, from Tallahassee, but I'm going to definitely, wife and I, we definitely come into Huntsville. We're going to make that game. Hopefully I get a chance to meet you, Coach.
All right, Cameron. Mr. Foster, I appreciate it, man.
Okay. Go
Yes,
for it.
Yes, sir.
All right, Cedric Foster, I appreciate it. And speaking of Tallahassee, Florida A&M, former Coach Willie Simmons winning a big one over North Carolina A&T. A lot of fireworks at halftime, but nonetheless, that was a big win by Florida A&M, postseason ineligible, but that was a huge win by the Rattlers, Coach, winning a big game over North Carolina A&T.
That was a great win for him, Coach. Done a great job with that program down there.
All right, we'll take a break here. We'll get to some of your tweets and texts coming up, and we'll hear from Dawson Odoms coming up. We'll have the swag report, so a lot to get to here in the last 15 minutes. And you can still chime in. Give us a call, 601-877-6595. You can text a question, 601-348-7254. You can tweet a question on Tall Man Radio, and text to come in for right now. We'll get to it on the other side of this timeout here on the Braves Sports Radio Network. SWAC report. Just 3 games in the conference on Saturday. Southern over Texas Southern, 28-21. Jackson State rallied and won in overtime, 31-28 over Mississippi Valley, and Prairie View over Lynchburg, 51-0. On Thursday night, Coach, Jackson State at Prairie View on ESPNU. On Saturday, of course, the Braves and Southern at 2 o'clock, Texas Southern at Valley at 2 o'clock, Bama State and Alabama A&M, the Magic City Classic. That's a 2:30 kickoff, and Jay Walker of ESPN said that's the best HBCU Classic, #1 by far. Of course, we did an interview with Jay Walker a few weeks ago. That's a big one. Obviously, the loser is probably eliminated for any contention for the East. That's a 2:30 kickoff at Grambling and UAPB at 3 o'clock. The standings in the East, the Braves are 3-0, Bama State 2-1, Alabama A&M 1-1, Jackson State 1-1, and Mississippi Valley 0-3. In the West, Southern 3-0, UAPB 2-1. And Coach, you always listen in, of course, on the teleconference. Cedric Thomas, he's doing a terrific job at UAPB. The only loss, of course, was to Southern. The team scoring a bunch of points, and they're right in the thick of the Western Division race.
Yeah, I think he's doing a great job there. It's just ironic, how before he left going to Pine Bluff, I came back on Sunday and made him sit down in my office, and we just talked about the transition they have to make from being a D coordinator to a head coach, and just had a good conversation, man. And no doubt, I knew he was going to be great once he got there, and had to go through those, had a culture change, and one of those things he had to do. Go in tough and keep the bar raised up, and I think he's doing a great job there at Pine Bluff.
If UAPB 2-1, Prairie View 2-2, Grambling 0-2, and Texas Southern, they played much better of late. They are 0-3. So we'll take our final break here, and we'll dive into the Southern University Jaguars and Dawson Odoms. Braves have won 8 out of 9, and we've been a thorn in their side for years, and they have a pretty good defense rolling in here. Their running game very much improved. That's what's helped them win 2 tough games against Prairie View and Texas Southern in Dallas this past Saturday. So we'll dig into the Jaguars when we come back after this. Minutes after the hour, let's look at the Jaguars, Coach. They beat Texas Southern 28-21. They've won 2 in a row. They've been kind of up and down, especially early. They lost to McNair, lost to Memphis. They beat Edward Waters, lost by 6 to Florida A&M, but they beat UAPB, Prairie View, and Texas Southern. They're riding a 3-game winning streak. You talked about McDaniel, the sophomore from Dothan, Alabama, and Skelton at quarterback. Offensively, Coach, let's just start there. They've got a couple of backs in Jamar Washington and Devon Ben. It's going to be an interesting dynamic trying to deal with those guys, Ben at 5'8", and Jamar Washington. Just talk about the Southern University offense.
Now, Ben is a load. They're going to hand the ball off to him, and he's going to run it hard. So we just got to make sure we're doing a great job of tackling, and just make sure we get them down to the turf. So those guys are going to be very competitive. They ride a 3-game high, so we expect their best game when they play us. So we just got to be ready to play.
Their defense, Coach, #1 in interceptions. They got 10 picks. What makes Southern's defense so tough?
Well, they're doing a whole lot, Charles. They're doing a whole lot in the secondary. I think that we have identified some of the things that they're doing. So they're going to be ready to play. We just can't throw it to them. That's one thing that I think that we can't do is turn the ball over this ballgame.
And, of course, Coach, we got about a minute and change left. Noah Johnson, how is his progression? You get asked that every week about Noah Johnson. How is he coming with the bye week?
He's coming along. So, just like I said, day to day with him, and just got to make sure we just take our time with him, make sure we don't re-aggravate it, and do all those things. I think, Jalisa is kind of helping us along with that. So, I ain't going to let us put him into no danger. So, I think that what we're seeing now is he's just coming along from day to day.
So for this Braves team to keep their winning streak going, what's the one thing that we have to do in this football game to keep it rolling?
Just got to make sure we come out fast on both offense and defense and special teams, Charles. That's one thing that we got to play on. We got to come out fast and execute. Play fast, and try to stop them from scoring. So I think we'll do a good job with that and try to pull this win out.
Should be exciting. Kickoff at 2 o'clock. We'll have the Braves pregame show at 1:30. We're going to talk with Pat White, quarterbacks coach, at the pregame show, and Carlos Brown of the Carlos Brown radio show in Baton Rouge with a Southern preview. Coach, let's go get him and let's keep it going.
All right, Charles. Go Braves.